It's time for The Engine, powered by Junior Achievement of Western Massachusetts, bringing you insights and interviews from entrepreneurs and innovators to help you own your economic success.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Engine. I am your host, Tom Fox, strategy consultant. I help business owners and nonprofit leaders find a good way to grow. To learn more about how I can help your business or nonprofit, please visit tomfox.com. That's THOMFOX.com. And the show is brought to you by Junior Achievement of Western Massachusetts, where we help kids own their economic success. We teach them financial literacy, work readiness, and of course, entrepreneurship. You can learn more about JA by visiting jawm.org. And before we get to our guest today, David O'Brien, who's the president of WorkChoice Solutions, just got a quick note about our former co-host here at the show, Angela Lucia. She's doing a great program with the UMass Family Business Center. I just want to read you a little bit about it, so if it's something you can participate in, please do. Are you a woman at the helm of a growing enterprise? Coming this September, a new group is forming for women in leadership. 9 times a year, meet with 11 other visionary females in a confidential group to grow your business, share your challenges, get support, and build a plan of action. Is this your year for unprecedented growth in your business? If you are ready to stop making excuses and start building your dream business, contact Angela Lucia, Group Facilitator at ANGELA at ANGELALUSSIER.US. That's Angela at AngelaLucia.us. Or call her at 413-426-2720. Again, that's Angela at AngelaLucia.us or 413-426-2720. This group is presented by the UMass Family Business Center. Ira Brick, who's the director up there, is a fantastic person, been growing businesses here in Western Massachusetts for 20-some-odd years. Great group. So if you get a chance, if it's something that's interesting to you, please check it out. So now we come to our guest, David O'Brien, president of WorkChoice Solutions. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be with you. Always nice to see you.
Well, but before we get into a little bit of what you do, I got to say, folks, I saw David speak. It was at the
Connecticut Nonprofit Center for Professional Development.
That place is gorgeous. First of all, it's in a mill building. It's a gorgeous
Fabulous
facility.
Place, yeah.
And you put on a wonderful, wonderful half-day workshop. I have to say, it was probably one of the better workshops I've seen in my career. It was, very thoughtful. Very accommodating, really got the group going, which sometimes is challenging, especially when you have all those leaders in the room, because it was all nonprofit leaders,
That's
right.
So,
but man, everybody played nice together, had some really good ideas. So I want to say thank you very much for that. It was a great workshop, leadership workshop.
That's correct, yeah. And thank you very much for that kind feedback. That program was on employee engagement, driving employee engagement, which is one of the many workshops that I do. And that was, again, at the Connecticut Nonprofits Center in Hartford on Columbus Boulevard. It's their Center for Professional Development. And as Tom had mentioned, they have this fantastic 1860s mill building that they got through a grant and converted it to the nonprofit center. So it's like incubator space for a number of nonprofits. If you're in that nonprofit space, check it out. It's a great group of people doing really amazing work.
Yeah, because they would actually move them over to the other buildings as they were growing. So
it's growing so much.
That's
exactly
really cool.
Right. Yeah, there are 3 buildings in the complex, and it's growing so much. The first building is filled. And now they're accommodating other nonprofit startups and existing nonprofits in building 2. So with the vision of having all of them filled, probably in the vicinity of 350,000 square feet between the 3 buildings in the not too distant future. They've done great work there, and they continue to do great work.
I got excited. As soon as I got back here, I actually emailed the president of the community foundation and connected him with the director out there. I said, listen, there's a lot going
Pat Johnson,
up and down the knowledge corridor. We really, if we're trying to grow here in Western Massachusetts, Northern Connecticut, there's a lot of relationships that can be built from that. And that's how I met you.
And there we go, yeah.
All this stuff happened. And you got another workshop coming up there, too,
That's
right?
exactly right. On July 28th, I'm doing Building Emotional Intelligence in Leaders, which is a very special program. It's one that I've done a lot of work on. I have a half-day and a full-day program on it. I've been speaking on the topic of emotional intelligence and have written on the topic and have had articles published as well for a good number of years. But there's something very special about that particular event because it actually heralds the official nationwide release of my second book, The Navigator's Compass, 101 Steps Toward Leadership Excellence. And the actual nationwide release date is August 4th. but in support of the great work that they're doing at CT Nonprofits, everyone who attends that program on July 28th, it's 9 to 3 is the schedule. Everyone that attends will get a complimentary pre-release copy of my new book.
Awesome.
So I'm really psyched about it. It's I just got the books last week. Again, the national release is August 4th, but it's, as you can imagine, it's nice to be able to hold that in my hands. And it's all about getting the conversation started around leadership and the opportunities every one of us have, regardless of what we do or our work or whether we even have a title or direct reports, the opportunity that every one of us have every day to be leaders and role models.
No, and I think what I appreciated in the workshop, more so the one that I saw, is really the level of engagement and understanding the responsibilities of leadership is not so much to grind someone into the ground and make them to do something.
That's right.
It's really understanding and aligning the mission that you have, along with the personal mission of the people that you, and essentially you serve, I guess I would say, as you serve your employees.
That's absolutely correct. I'm a big fan of Robert Greenleaf, who by most estimates or in most circles is considered the pioneer of servant leadership. If you're not familiar with him, I'd encourage our listeners to check out the Greenleaf Center online at greenleafcenter.com. He was really a pioneer in that, and the belief that it really is about serving the people, that it's not about us as leaders, it's about the people that we serve. They are the ones that make us successful, and a huge part of our responsibility as a leader is to help them to succeed, get out of their way, and serve them. And I think it's a very, very good reminder for all of us as we lead our teams into the complexities of today's workplace.
And to your point too, I mean, you just think about it too. Let's talk about it emotionally. When you get someone excited by respecting them, by listening to them, by acting on some really good ideas they have, or helping them formulate it, you win a tremendous advocate for your business. Right. That employee will then work harder. Yeah. Because now they're invested. Instead of going, oh my God. I mean, I can't tell you how many folks I see on Facebook, Monday morning. Oh boy, it's Monday morning again. Sunday night they're dreading it. Man, how awesome would it be if you could walk into work and love what you do? And people do that.
Yeah. And the reality is, from my experience, having now worked for a number of years, it's a choice that's available to all of us. And I think the key word there is choice. I came from the belief that I have to work for a pretty long time. My dad, who was one of the most important leadership hero, in fact, my latest article, The 5% Formula, that just came out yesterday, in fact, is a story about him and some of the lessons I learned. But I knew that he worked for a really long time, and God bless me, lived to be 90 years old. And I came up of the belief early on in my career that I have to work for a really long time, and that one of the clear choices that I was aware of was that I could choose to make it a good experience, that it did not have to be a drag. It did not have to feel like doing time. And so the belief was centered on that, and realizing that it at an important level, it can be a joyful experience. In fact, that's a philosophy that guides me and many of the leaders that I work with, whether it be in a coaching context or in my speaking work or training work, that's available to all of us, regardless, by the way, of our level or whether we even have a title.
So when you say you coach leaders, what's your ideal person that you can help?
Somebody that wants to have more fun with what they're doing, somebody that wants to have more impact with what they're doing. There's really typically two tracks that embody the whole coaching model or coaching scenario. And so one is a performance management type scenario where the person who has great credentials, really smart, really driven, really motivated, and in many ways very successful, and that drives them to get bigger responsibility, more and more span of control and influence. Well, what happens is if the behavior isn't aligned with that and it becomes condescending, disrespectful, abrasive, you can fill in the blanks. We've all worked for those kinds of people. The impact and fallout from that negative behavior has much broader implications. on engagement, retention, all of those factors, to say nothing of the potential of lost revenue from lost business and customer relationships. And so that's one part of it. Another track is the leadership development track of the coaching, where you have that same kind of person who's doing a really terrific job. I just had an example where I coached a young woman who was on track to become president of her division. And so about a year ago, I started working on that project, and we concluded that she had a lot of the qualities and characteristics that would make her very successful in that expanded role, moving from a vice president to a divisional president. But we also, through some assessment, determined that here were some skills that needed to be shored up. And so over the course of a year, we worked on building those skills to position her to be quite ready for that transition to the top job. And so that would be more the leadership development track, helping really smart and effective, successful people get a little bit better. And if you think of the coaching model in the sports world, that's a perfect illustration of it. Mm-hmm. So if you look around at the top sports teams, the top performers, every one of them, with very few exceptions, have utilized the coach to make them better.
No, and you look at it, this is really an investment, if you look at it. It's not, because we're not consultants, people go, oh, consultants and blah, 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 blah. And you're not going to pay somebody to tell me stuff I already know. No, because if you already know it, why would you make the investment? Again, it's not just throwing money at somebody. It's really making an investment. You look at this example, you talk about this young woman.
Yeah.
Here she is. She's got a lot of these great qualities of leadership. Now there's an investment made to shore all that up, to iron out the wrinkles, so to speak. So now when she steps in this new role, she's basically that diamond. She's ready to shine. She's got the support and the knowledge that you've helped her understand and get a command of. Yeah. And now she can put that to effect in her company. And now that's going to help them generate revenue from day one.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the investment is measurable. The other thing that I think that it comes back to in many ways is helping them understand the scope of their influence. Because what we're really talking about, as kind of a sidebar note in my speaking work, as you know, I do quite a bit of keynote speaking all over the country, and that's a real source of joy in the work I do, because I get to meet people from all walks of life and have conversations about leadership. But oftentimes I'll get the question, so how would you describe leadership in one word? And I'm reminded of the first time I heard that question, I thought about it for what seemed to be 10 seconds. It was probably 3 seconds, but it seemed like a lot longer. And I came to the word influence. And since that time, maybe 4 years ago, I've spent lots of time thinking about that one word and the one word answer. How would you describe leadership in one word? And I've had countless conversations, and the more I've done that, the more convinced I am that leadership is really about influence. How do we use our influence? What's the impact of our influence? Are people better off for being with us or not? Mm-hmm. And as leaders, we have, I think, a huge responsibility to be sure that we're using our influence in what I think of as a productive way. In my first book, The Navigator's Handbook, I talked about some research I did on leadership influence, and this goes back 10 years. But I came to believe that in many ways there were two types of it, and one is destructive influence, which does not build people up. It takes them down. It's condescending. It creates fear, insecurities. It erodes trust and all of that. And then there's productive influence. And productive influence is consistently building that sense of community, that sense of trust, that sense of integrity, that sense of belonging, which all of us desire.
Yeah, and when you see that your leadership is invested in you as an employee, you want to continually meet that bar, exceed that bar. Mm-hmm. You know that, and I get one thing I appreciate. A really quick story. The first, I was promoted to marketing manager. I forget how many years ago. And I was writing copy for my president, and when I gave it to him, he read it, he crumpled it up and threw it in a garbage can, and didn't say another word to me. And I was like, at a loss. Because I'm like, that to me was a tremendous opportunity to say, well, listen, I think there's some really good elements here, but I think there's some things that you can expand upon. So that to me was a very big lost moment. Mm-hmm. And it's demoralizing from the employee perspective when you don't look at I've read countless articles on how we basically don't utilize the employee review process as well as we could. We every 6 months we tell you all the things you did wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't say, hey, wow, you did a really good job on some of these things. I see here you struggled. Let's work together so that in the next 6 months when we meet again, we'll help you build up those things. That to me is, that's how that shines.
Yeah.
But we don't hear a lot of that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And in fact, I've been of the belief, one of the things that I've shared with leaders in so many different ways in different contexts over the years, this just a reminder, I call it a reminder because I think everybody knows this, but it's a reminder that says not a single person on your team showed up today with the specific goal or intention of failing. Let's be really clear on that. And I think that's an important guidepost for every leader that's listening, that not a single person. Now, you may say to me, well, you don't know this employee or that employee. I get it.
Outlier.
I get it. Right. But by and large, and I think at a very important level, the vast majority of cases, with very few exceptions, every single person on your team showed up today with some level of desire to be successful. And one of the things that I often challenge the leaders that I work with in a coaching context when they complain about a particular employee. In fact, I had one just recently in one of the coaching conversations I had with a client earlier this week who was complaining about one of her employees. And I said, okay, you can always count on me to give it to you straight. And to be honest with you, I'm going to ask you the following question. What role have you played in that reality? Because what I'm hearing is it's all this person's fault. And I think it's fair to say that a good part of it is her responsibility, but I also think it's your responsibility as the leader here.
Absolutely.
And I think that's about holding up the mirror and saying these things just don't happen. We as leaders have a significant influence on it, and that's back to the influence idea.
You look at this in general, and you make me think about it as you chat. We always have that moment where we complain about something. Listen, I'm no different. We're all human. Blah, 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 blah. A lesson that my grandfather taught me many, many, many years ago, which I didn't appreciate well until my 30s, is he said you can't complain about anything unless you're willing to fix it.
Yeah, there you go.
And if you start to see that pattern in an employee, that's a really good opportunity to intervene and say, hey, Jim, what's going on?
Yeah, how can we help you?
I've noticed this, that, and the other thing. So before it gets to that point where you're like, oh, Jim's just driving me crazy, talk to him.
Yeah.
When you see something going on, have that dialogue in a very productive way, an open-ended way.
That's right. Yeah.
Fine.
In a supportive and respectful way. That's what I like to refer to as neutral feedback. So one of the programs I do in a lot of different environments, but have done at CT Nonprofits many times, is the leader is a coach. And one of the things that I remind participants about is, there are generally 3 different kinds of feedback. There's positive, negative, and neutral. And neutral is just that. It's supportive, it's respectful, it's non-judgmental. There's a framework that we use there and a coaching game plan that we use that people complete by the end of the program on a specific employee. And one of the reminders is that the first meeting or discussion is likely to go better if you start the conversation with positive reinforcement, that you're doing these things really well. I had this conversation at 5 o'clock yesterday with a client who's going to be talking to one of her team today or Monday about an issue. And I said, so why do you want to engage me? Why do you want to make this investment? And it helped her to get clear on, well, because we really care about this person. She's really good. We really need her to be a key contributor. She's been a key contributor, but there's some behavioral things that are getting in the way. And so I said, okay, so in that conversation where you introduced the idea of working with me as a coach, I think it's extremely valuable to start by saying, here's why we care, here's why you're important to us, and we feel an obligation to help you be successful.
That's great. You look at that just from the investment side alone. You mentioned a little bit earlier, there were the numbers are a little fuzzy for me, but it was a research report I read a little while ago that said if you lose your average employee, it's probably 1.5 times their salaries to replace them. If you lose a middle manager, it's something like 150 times their salary what you have the potential to lose, and it's 400% if you lose the CEO. And it's not just the revenue; it's the relationships that they built and everything. All that leaves. That knowledge capital leaves. But if you invest in that person, to your point, let's keep them here. It's a wise investment on their part.
It's a smart investment. Yeah, you remind me of that. Those are really good numbers. They're accurate, by the way. And there's a lot of data on that. In that Leader as a Coach program, I actually do an activity called exploring the cost of losing talent. And so I have them fill out this worksheet with all these different factors on it with the specific intent of helping them in their own way learn and then illustrate through the activity that, yes, conventional thinking, based again on a lot of good data from mainstream research firms, conclude that it's on average 100 to 150% of the person's salary. And so then, and that's on average, let's be clear.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so now you get somebody who's a VP of sales or a director of sales who's bringing in 5% or 10% of the organization's revenue because of experience and relationships that he or she has in the marketplace, and that person leaves, and is leaving because of poor management or bad management, and then there's bad feelings associated with it. Guess what? That number, 150%, could be 500%. It could be way beyond that. And so, I think the business case for it, regardless of the sector that you're in, is about paying attention and acknowledging that people leave managers, not organizations.
Yes, people don't quit jobs; they quit managers.
Yeah. Marcus Buckingham from the Gallup organization, one of my favorite authors. All of his books are terrific. First, Break All the Rules, and then Discover Your Strengths, or a couple. But he pointed that out in one of his studies with the Gallup organization, which I think in some cases was an eye-opener for people, that people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And if you think about that, when you left your last job, was it because of the company or was it because of the manager? And then further data from the Gallup organization and Blessing White and others continue to reinforce that the number one factor in leaving an organization relates to the manager. And one of the key drivers of engagement, also based on that research, is trust in your immediate manager.
So now,
big deal.
So now, if someone's in this situation, they're listening to us right now and they're going, you know what? I think I have somebody, in my leadership team that I need to polish. How can they get a hold of you?
The best thing to do is reach out to me. You can reach out to me directly. I'm in Connecticut in the Hartford area, 860-242-1070, or visit me online at www.WorkChoiceSolutions, that's plural, .com. And reach out to me that way. Check out the website. There's a lot of great stuff. I might add, by the way, on the website, again, at www.WorkChoiceSolutions.com, on the Navigator bar, there's a heading called Learning Resources. Within that, there's a bunch of free stuff, articles, of course, but also some assessments. There's a wide range of resources that I've specifically and intentionally put there for free to help people spark the leadership conversation. And I invite listeners to check that out, again, at www.WorkChoiceSolutions.com, and check out Learning Resources and learn more about the work that I do. And I invite our listeners to reach out to me, even if it's just to have a question about some challenge that they have. Be happy to take their call.
So now on the website, can they get your first book and pre-order? Can they pre-order the
second
book?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm happy to. Great question. Thank you. Yeah, the first book, The Navigator's Handbook, 101 Leadership Lessons for Work and Life, is also available on the website. That's the first book. The second book, The Navigator's Compass, is available on the website. It was just put up last week. The link and the photo of the book, the JPEG of the book, of the new book, was just put up there, and it is available. It'll be nationwide. It'll be in bookstores and everywhere on August 4th, but pre-release copies. Yeah, you can get it before.
Awesome.
Yeah, we have that link set up.
Okay, so you can go to the website. You can get all that information. That's WorkChoiceSolutions.com. Get over there, check that out. And I played around on the resource section. You put in a lot of good resources in there for nonprofits, for just leaders in general. A lot of good stuff. And to your point, kind of in a sense, there's so much out there, which is why I always appreciate meeting colleagues in my space. Because I know I don't do it all as a consultant. I really don't. And as I grow my practice, I have mentors and I talk to them. And from the get-go, I said I don't want to do stuff that I can't do because it's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt the client. And they said that's the way to do it. Don't chase the money.
That's right.
Chase your opportunities. And along the way, you meet good folks, and you can say, "Wow, I don't do this well, but this person does it well." Now you build, and that's a good relationship builder in and of itself, because now you're giving your potential individual an opportunity to talk to someone who's skilled in that particular aspect and can really give them value. And you've helped someone who, again, grow their practice as well, too. So there's plenty of room around here for folks. And that's why I appreciate you and your energy. Again, when that workshop, I got to say, it was probably, like I said, one of the best workshops I've seen. Just wonderful engagement with the crowd. I mean, everybody walked out of there like, I mean, sometimes you get people walk out, they go, yeah, I learned, yeah, this is, or, oh, it's a waste of time, or I didn't really learn anything. I learned a couple things, but everybody's walking out, they're like, wow, this is really like charged up, especially after a half day. I'm waiting to see some people no, they had more energy than before the coffee.
Well, coming from you, that means a lot to me, and I think the it's not a secret ingredient, it's the magic ingredient. That is, I really believe with tremendous conviction that I'm blessed to be able to do my life's work. This is my life's work, and I am a passionate student of this stuff, of leadership and how do we get better and being a leader in every role. You may recall one of the things that I said in that session was, once we choose to be a leader, there's no off switch. This is about 24/7, and trying to live this in every role I play is what helps me to, I think, get better at it. And create those kinds of outcomes in the workshops and the speaking engagements and the coaching, because I live this stuff. There's no off switch on it. And once we choose to be a leader, regardless of where we are in our life, our career, what level, none of that really matters. What matters is that every one of us have that choice every single day in every role we play. And one of the points I said before is in that relevant regarding the influences, do we leave people better off or not for hanging out with us? And so, that's what leaders do.
Well, we got like 2 minutes left, so I want to give people just can you give them a summary of the workshop coming up on the 28th and tell them how they can register?
Sure. Thank you very much. So the workshop on July 28th at Connecticut Nonprofits, Columbus Boulevard in Hartford, is Building Emotional Intelligence in Leaders. It's a 3-hour program, 9 to 3. Registration is required. It is open to the public. And it's based on a lot of research that I've done around building clarity around the case for emotional intelligence, why it's so important. I referenced some of the great research and books that are available now, including Travis Bradberry's EQ 2.0. But in addition to that, it provides opportunities to build some emotional intelligence skills. I have a great assessment in there called the EI Insights Inventory. Participants will be able to do that inventory, and that's kind of a gauge of how they're doing and where they could be in terms of further development around emotional intelligence. And there's also a really good foundation of skill building that takes place through group activities, interaction, and group dialogue.
And those activities are fun. I have fun in those activities.
I try to make them fun. I try to do activities about every 5 slides in the program. So in a 3-hour program, we'll have maybe 4 or 5 group activities that are all intended to build skills around emotional intelligence, largely in this particular one, focusing on self-awareness and self-regulation. And then on top of that, people will get the copy of the book. So you can register online at ctnonprofits.org. And the program, again, is 9 a.m. to 12 noon on July 28th. We've got a beautiful facility there and a great group of people that will be attending. I've already heard from some folks that contacted me to say they would registered. I heard from one early this morning, in fact, who registered last night. I know we have room. They have a super big training room there. So please, if you can make it, if you're available, check it out. It's a great use of your time, and it's very, very inexpensive. And you'll get a free copy of my new book before the rest of the world.
And I'll throw this information up on my website, tomfox.com. That's THOMFOX.com. It'll be up there on Monday, and everybody can access it. David O'Brien, thank you very much for coming, and really appreciate it.
Tom, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks for listening to The Engine. We'll be back next week.